there is an allegation that has brought against me. It has been investigated. Prosecution has happened. I have been found guilty. I have spent time in jail, right? I have appealed in court. One asks the question, if I do appeal, does that take away my guilty verdict? How does that then sit with agencies that clear an individual that they are ready or they can vie for office? Because one would argue that even if you have appealed, right, the original judgment still remains. It is until that time after the hearing has happened that the judge then makes a decision to either find you innocent or not, but the guilty verdict still remains. That's how Kenyans are thinking. Correct us if we are wrong.
Well, that is the moral aspect I was speaking to before. You see, there are two things. One, you've given two different examples. One, that you served a jail term, then came out. Then there's this impeachment that now means that you cannot, but then impeachment means you're permanently done. It means you're gone. You and politics, you've retired. Do you think
Parliament enjoys quasi-judicial powers?
Yes.
Okay.
So we tell you that, you are goodbye. You are done. I hear people say 10 years. I don't know who said that they have to come back after 10 years, but it's permanent. So the reason why we have courts is because, like I rightfully told you, this thing is by and large political. It's a political process. So as to prevent a scenario where people can have a witch hunt against you and put some impeachment on you and then just make sure you go home to destroy your political career, which sometimes, that thing, you don't need to have some serious legal evidence when that process in Parliament. It's just, it's really not, the evidence threshold is not that serious. So if someone comes up with some, like the things they're saying about Gashago, and they couldn't prove those things, but just to whip emotions to vote. And we also know scenarios that our members of Parliament and Senate, there are allegations that they actually panel beaten to certain decisions. So if people are already given a way forward on how to vote, on bills, for example, remember the finance bill, when people died, they voted. Then when the president said, you know what, I won't sign this, then they clapped. People are already dead, the sad reality. So to prevent an unfair process, that is why the courts are there. So the court will actually see whether it can actually invalidate the impeachment ruling, or to just leave it as it is. So it actually, more or less, the court just checks the process. Okay. So is the process sound? If it wasn't sound, then the court will say, you know what, this process was not sound. If, for example, the threshold for signatures, let's say, for example, for the members of court assembly, if that was not met, then of course that impeachment process is flawed. There's one that, the first one brought against her name, what is her name? Kawira
Mwangaza.
Did not meet the threshold for signatures for the MCAs. That one died a natural death. Until now, they caught up with her. They found a way out, So we have to protect everyone's rights. But now that doesn't mean that if you're found culpable, that now we also support that. The only reason we have this doctrine of exhaustion is that so that you can actually rest. Without you having to have those questions that linger in your head. So you are given room to go to court, argue your case out, and once the court decides they will not invalidate the ruling, the impeachment ruling, then you go home.
Am I hearing you then speak in terms of the morality question for Kenyans in terms of individuals that find themselves in this public office does not exist? We've never really had a conversation in terms of this is the moral standard that we hold ourselves as a country where you have a matter. You ought not to be anywhere within leadership circles.
Now, you see, we really can't have that conversation with Kenyans, if you're to be honest, because we are the same people that are given 500 shillings to attend a rally. We are the same people that when someone comes to campaign, umetuacha aje. So you cannot you cannot be too clean when now it wants to fight. I keep telling people this, you cannot receive bribes during campaigns and then expect when someone goes to Parliament to move anti-corruption bills. How?
They gave you 500.
They will never. They have to recoup their money. So we have to change our software. That is the problem we have. Because, we can't look at the impeached people and say, these guys are crooks. But who elected them? We did. Who attended the rallies? We did. Who wore the t-shirts and the capes? We did. Who actually subscribed to their manifesto? We did. So up until we say, by the way, no, That's why I'm saying that chapter 6 has yet to come to life. If we bring it to life, us as Kenyans, and say, you know what, there is a standard we have for leadership in this country. If you fall beneath that, do other things. Enda fanya kazi ingine. Leadership entails chapter 6. The day we do that, then we can now look at these leaders and say, you know what, by the way, this one is a crook, this one is this and that. But up until then, because that same person you call a crook, when they call for a rally, the same Kenyans will run there, and after he's giving a packet of flour or something, these days I see people getting 5,000.
No lollipops.
And guys are also getting gas canisters and also getting boats.
Yeah.
That's a form of bribe. Let's call it what it is. Although they decided to vote correctly, but at the end of the day, they received. So your software still has a problem. It's as simple as saying, "Apana tutaki kitu." What do you have to? What do you have for us as a people? If let me ask you a question. We've seen so many by-elections in the recent past.
Yeah.
If I were to ask you what those individuals who got elected stand for, can you tell me? You can't.
Can they tell us?
No, all I'm saying is, have you had anything? Let's take the recent one, the recent by-election.
Yeah.
The best thing we know about Kamongodo were the beautiful songs that were being sung by the people, and the act of defiance by the people of all Kalau. Now, if he will work for them is a different question. I cannot judge him; he's yet to work. But we have to interrogate what you stand for, because if you don't stand for anything, they say you fall for
everything
at the end of the day. So those are the questions we need to ask ourselves first before we go to any election. We have time between now. It's actually 1 year between now and the next election. Which are the type of leaders we want, or what does let's say I want to have a member of parliament. This member of parliament, what do I want this member of parliament to do for me? Or if I was to mold someone as a president, what attributes would I give to this person? It will be easier for you to vote. But up until then, we will be electing these impeachable people, more crooks, more frauds. They will always run for, because they have the money. They have the money to transverse the country. They have the money to bribe the way around it. And that's why I keep telling people that 500 bob, you can't eat it for 5 years. That means you'll be eating 100 bob a year.
So now there's nothing